Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. We will begin a new series of videos or playlists. We will call it the Red Alert Lab. So as we all know, in the IT Visualizer channel we discuss different IT concepts, okay, but through a story or through a game story or through a movie story. So we make a story and build on it our lab, okay. So in this video series we will build our lab on a famous game called the Red Alert. Let me get you the presentation. So we all know, most of the IT geeks like myself and anyone is a heavy gamer all know the famous Red Alert game. It's a game that is considered as a strategy game, okay. Who doesn't know what is a strategy game? It's something like building an army, okay, from different units and then go to war with another player which have a different army and different units, and a war virtually begins, okay. It's something like building, okay. It's strategy. It's called strategy because you are making a strategy. You are building buildings and army and military units. So it is something like working or making strategy planning. So you need to be very well planned or to make a strategy to attack your opponent. So you need to build more units to organize your defenses and to control your resources, to build more units and to be able to defeat your opponent. So this is a strategy game that was famous in the 90s, I think. So this game, through it or through the story of the game, we will build our lab. So this lab is built upon three armies. So the Red Alert game is built, or its story is built about three different military opponents that will face each other. The first military opponent, or the first military, it is the Allies army, which consists of the US and its European allies, and then the USSR army, which was at that time the Soviet Union army, and the Japanese army, which is called in this game the Empire of the Sun army. So we will build our lab upon these three armies, okay. So what is the story? The story that these three armies finally decide to unite under the United Nations Union, okay. So these armies, okay, these three armies need to have a new headquarter, okay, with a completely new infrastructure, and we need this infrastructure to be highly secured. So these are three armies, so which means that we are working in a military environment. So we need to have a network, a domain controller, and an active directory, and workstations and servers. All of this need to be highly secured, and secure as physical and as logical, okay. So we need to physically secure the servers and the workstations, and to logically also secure the environments, like securing the data. You need to encrypt the data, you need to do a lot of things. So through this lab, okay, we need to create a domain that will contain all of the three armies, okay. So the Ally army, the USSR army, and the Japanese. So we need to create an environment, or to need to create a domain controller and an active directory which will contain all of these armies, okay. So this army contains infantry, it contains tanks, it contains air forces, it contains a lot of things. I will show you the active directory structure. So here, as I said before, we will focus on creating a very highly secured environment. So the main focus of this lab is to how to secure your Microsoft Windows environment, or to secure your domain environment, okay. We are working, or we are making this lab build on the Red Alert game scenario, or the Red Alert game story, okay. So here we are considering that these three armies need to make a very secure environment, okay, because they need to have access and exchange information in a very highly secure environment. So we'll focus on this lab on creating a very highly secured environment. So as a start, we will design our network to use Windows Server 2019 core. So in the normal labs or the previous labs, you have been working with Windows Server 2019 graphical interface, which was data center. Okay, Windows Server 2019 data center. Okay, in this lab we will work with something called core. What is the difference between the normal Windows Server 2019 data center and the Windows Server 2019 data center core? The core one doesn't have a graphical interface, so you will have Windows that will be managed through using commands. It is a black screen. If you need to do something through the Windows Server data center core, you need to type a command. So for example, if you need to access a folder, you need to type a command to access the folder on the Windows core. If you are not working with the Windows core and working on the normal one, you just browse my computer and click on the folder that you need to access. So why we are using core in this lab? Because it is much more secure. So when you are working with Windows core are much more secure than the normal graphical interface Windows. Okay, and it needs less updates. Okay, so it's more secure and it will fit our scenario. So we will use Windows Server 2019 data core to create our network, okay, or our domain controllers, and I will discuss later how much or what is the structure of the domain. Okay, so here we will use Windows Server 2019 data center core as our domain controller operating system, and then we will use for the workstations, we will use the latest or the most stable Windows 10 edition, which is Windows 10 20H2 Enterprise. So we will use it as our workstations operating system, and we will use something called Windows 10 LTSC Enterprise 2019. This is a special edition of Windows Enterprise. Okay, it is unique because it is have some things stripped from the normal Windows 10 Enterprise. So for example, you don't have Windows Store on Windows 10 LTSC, you don't have Cortana, you don't have Edge. So this is I prefer it in a stable environment or in a secure environment like the one that we are discussing in this lab, to have Windows 10 LTSC Enterprise installed. But we will install both Windows 10 20H2 Enterprise and Windows 10 LTSC Enterprise 2019. We will try both, and we will make a test on the Windows 11 Enterprise for the future deployment. So we need to test the Windows 11 and see how it will work with our structure or with our secure structure. Okay, so here these are the operating systems that we will use in this lab, and we will design the Active Directory in a way so we can make it more secure. So we will use a design in Active Directory called admin tier model. Okay, I will discuss what is an admin tier model in the upcoming video, but you need to know that we will design the Active Directory, its organizational units, its objects like computers, users and groups. All of this will be done according to a certain design. This design is called admin tier model. Okay, this is recommended by Microsoft for highly secured environments. So if you need to have your Active Directory in a highly secured environment or in working in a very sensitive environment like the military, you need to work with the admin tier model to secure your Active Directory. So we will see how we will work with the admin tier model. We have a user, I have a user, one of my friends on the LinkedIn, he has a very good PDF on how to design the Active Directory according to the admin tier model. So we will see how this admin tier model will work and how the design of the Active Directory will be. So this is some of the things we will do in the lab, and then let's go to what we will have in the lab. We will have two domain controllers that will have Windows Server 2019 Data Center Core installed on it. The first one will be a primary domain controller and a DNS server, and the second one will be an additional domain controller and additional DNS server. Okay, and we will have DHCP installed on it, and file server role and WSOS. Okay, it's recommended that the WSOS to be installed on a separate server, and the file server to be installed on a separate server, and the DHCP to be installed on a separate server. But because due to my hardware limitation, I will put the three on one server with the domain controller, okay, with the additional domain controller. Actually, also a best practice is to install the domain controller on a separate server. So if you need the optimal or the most recommended setting, you need to put a domain controller separately on a server, and then the DHCP separately on the server, and the file server to be separately on the server, and the WSOS to be separately on the server. Okay, so this is the structure. And then due to the fact that these two servers, we have Windows Server 2019 Data Center Core installed on them, so we don't have a graphical interface. So how we can manage them without having a graphical interface? So we will create a workstation, a special workstation. We will secure it, or we make a high secure configuration on it, or we will secure it very heavily. So we use it to connect to our Windows Server Data Center Core servers, okay, and do our configuration. So we will create a workstation, a normal one that has Windows 10 installed on it, and then we will make some configuration on it to be very secure, because this workstation we will use it to connect to the Windows Server Data Center 2019 core servers, the domain controller and the additional domain controller, and do configuration on both of these servers through the workstation, remotely of course. Okay, so we will see how this PAW, it is named Privilege Access Workstation. This is the name of the workstation. We will have Windows 10 installed on it, but we will tweak the setting of this workstation or Windows 10 to be very secure. Okay, so for example, one of the things for this workstation, that will not have access to the internet. Okay, why? To be more secure, we will only dedicate it to connect to the servers. Okay, so it will have only one objective, is to configure, or through it to configure both domain controllers. Okay, we will not have internet access, we will not have anything. Okay, one will ask me, what about the Windows updates and the antivirus update? This will be pushed through the WSOS. I will talk later about this point. Okay, and then for this lab we will create different Active Directory objects, users, computers, groups, all of these, and we will make file shares, or we will share folders on the file server, and we will create Active Directory home folders. All of this will be done using the PowerShell scripts. Okay, and after doing all of these steps, we will begin securing our environment, okay, through using guidelines. So we have two security guidelines to work with them to secure our environment. One is called Microsoft Security Baseline. This is a group of recommendations from Microsoft to secure your environment, and an organization called STIG. This is some guidelines for security, okay, done by the Ministry of Defense of the United States. Okay, it gives us some recommendation how to secure your environment, and not actually the Windows, all of the environments you can think of, the Cisco environment, the Linux environment, all of this. So the Microsoft baseline will be concentrating on securing your Microsoft environment, but as for the STIG guide, it is concerning, or it focus, or it discuss securing all of the environments you work with, so Cisco or Windows or whatsoever. So we will use these guidelines to secure our Active Directory, our Windows Server environment. So the Active Directory have some setting we need to configure to be secure, and then we will secure the Windows Server. So if you have member servers that are not domain controllers, so we need to make some security on them to secure them, and then to secure the workstations as well, Windows 10, and to secure our Office. So if you have Office installed, we will have some configuration to be done to secure the Office environment, the browser environment, the Microsoft Edge, and the Adobe Reader environment. So this is basically what we will do in this lab. In this lab we are focusing on securing, or working on security. Okay, so this is a very important issue that all of us nowadays concentrate on, because most of us have ransoms attacks and have hackers attacks. So we need to secure our environment as much as we can. Okay, so we will focus in this lab on security. Okay, and let's see what is the structure, or let's talk about the structure of our lab, or to have a sneak peek on our lab. So let's, for example, see what will be the Active Directory structure. So let's go and open the scripts here, and let's see the organizational units that will be created in this lab. Okay, I will give you a sneak peek about the files that we'll use, or the scripts and the files we'll use in this lab. So here, for example, let's consider that first of all our domain will be named redalert.internal. Okay, and why we are using .internal and maybe not .local or .com or whatsoever. .com and the other famous extensions are already accessed on the internet, so we don't need to have duplicates. So for example, maybe there is someone that have his domain named redalert.com on the internet, so this will make problems. Okay, as for .local, recently .local or previously .local was only used in the internal network, so most of us names our domain domain.local. Okay, but recently .local was available to be purchased on the internet, so you will not be surprised to find a website for example not named for example redalert.com, but it can be redalert.local, so you can access a website on the internet named .local, so it is not restricted to be in internal networks anymore. It is available on the internet, so we will name our domain .internal because this is not available on the internet, it's only available locally. Okay, so here we will have our structure. First of all, we'll make our first organizational unit. We will name it armies, so this is the organizational unit that all of the 3 armies will be under it. And then we will have global servers. Okay, this is an organizational unit that contains the global servers of the 3 armies. Okay, and this is an organizational unit that will contain all of the groups for all of the armies. Okay, so we will have each army have a group. So for example, the Allies army will have a group for the infantry, or a group for the pilots, or the group for the generals. So all of the military groups will be put here. And then we have a global IT group. So here we will have an IT group, a global IT group that is, its function is to manage all of the other ITs in the army. So every army, the Ally army for example, and the USSR army and the Japanese army, every one of these armies will have his own IT. Okay, and we will be the centralized IT, so we are the bosses of the other armies. So for example, you have the Ally army IT, the USSR army IT, the Japanese IT. All of these will be managed with the global IT group. Okay, or the UN IT group, let's say. Okay, and then we have our structure allies. This is the organization that will contain the ally group. Okay, and we have the command center. Okay, and then we have the servers, military groups, IT groups. So this is the allies, our allies army. It will contain sub-organizational units, one for the command center, one for the servers for the allies, the military groups of the ally army, the IT group of the ally army, the army camps of the ally. This is the personnel or the army of the allies. It will be in this organizational unit. This is the users. It will be here. And the air base, this will contain the planes of the ally army. Let's consider the planes and the tanks and everything to be a computer. So let's consider the air base, or okay, let's consider the planes to be computers, and let's consider the tanks to be computers. So the groups or the users will be here in this organizational unit. The computers will be in the air base, or let's consider the planes as computers, and these planes, we have a lot of planes and a lot of types of planes. So for example, we have Apollo fighters. So these computers are, or this organizational unit is divided to sub-organizational units with each plane type. So for example, here is the air base, and we have the Apollo fighters. This is a sub-organizational unit from the air base. This contains the Apollo fighter planes. Okay, so it will be under this one. So we have the allies, we have the organizational unit for the command center for the allies, the servers of the allies, the military groups of the Allies, okay, the IT group of the Allies, the army camp of the Allies, the air base of the Allies, which contains all of the different types of planes, okay. And then here we will have something called ARMO facility, okay, a folder or an organizational unit that will contain the tanks, okay, and this is the tanks under the ARMO facility. So what, 1 minute guys. So let's continue guys. Here, as I said before, we will have our Active Directory structure. It will be divided to 3 armies. Every army will have its own organizational units, and every army will have sub-organizational units. As I said before, it will be divided according to some criteria. This will be the command center, and this will be for the servers for the army, the military groups for the army, the IT group for the army, and the infantry or the personnel in the army will be in the army camps organizational unit, and the air base will contain the airplanes which will be considered in this lab to be computers. And the airplanes is divided to sub-organizational units. Every organizational unit will contain a type of plane, and in this organizational sub-organizational unit will contain the plane itself. So for example, if you have Apollo fighter organizational unit, we will have 5 or 6 planes in this organizational unit, and these planes will be considered as computers, okay. And there is an organizational unit, so these are all different types of planes, which we all, by the way, they are from the Red Alert game and from the real life. So we can see here, for example, that there is Global Hawk. This is one of the famous planes in the army or in the military armies of the world. So these are all real plane names, okay. Here we can see it, this Hornet, for example, and all of these are real planes. And then we will have another sub-organizational unit or an organizational unit from the Allies Army organizational unit, which is called ARMO facility. This contains the tanks, okay. So these tanks will be in this organizational unit, and this organizational unit for the tanks will be divided to sub-organizational units. Every organizational unit will be for a certain type of tank. So for example, here we can see Mirage tank. So for example, it will be under ARMO facility organization unit, and then will be a sub-organization unit called Mirage tank. This will contain tanks, and tanks and airplanes are considered as computers, okay. So these are different tanks. Here you can see different type of tanks. And then we have another organization unit called Seaport for the Allies. This will contain the ships, and also the ships are considered to be computers in this lab. And this organization unit will be divided to sub-organization units with different ship types. So here, for example, we have the assault destroyer. This is a kind of ship used in military or in the navy of the military. It is under Seaport. So Seaport will contain all of the ship types under it. So here is the destroyer. So we have Seaport, we have ARMO facility, we have air base. All of these are sub-organization units from the Allies Army organization unit, and they contain different objects, tanks, ships, airplanes, and all of these are considered to be computers, okay. So here this is it, and then you will have another organizational unit. Let's go here. We have also something called let's go there and see which are we have. We have Seaport, and then we have defenses. So we have in the Ally Army organization units sub-organization unit called defenses, okay. So this may be called Torrent, Chronosphere. These are all weapons, okay. I consider them also to be as computers, okay. So this is under the defenses organization unit. So we have the Ally Army organization unit contains sub-organization units like airbase, seaport, and ARMO facility and defenses. All of these are sub-organization units from the Ally organizational units army, and they are considered all computers. As for the users, they will be under something called army camp, okay, as we see here, and this will be repeated for every army. So for the Soviet Union, we will have also command center, servers, military, IT group, army camp, air base, okay, and we will have seaport for the USR Army, and we will have defenses for the USR Army. So all of these are repeated again with every army, and every army has its different airplane types, different tank types, different ship types, and all of these are the ships and the airplanes and the tanks are considered computers. So this is for the USR Army. And then we will go to the, let's see here, this is the seaports, some of the USSR ship types, and then we will have the Empire of the Sun. This is referred to Japanese army. Okay, so we will have different also military groups for the Empire of the Sun, and we will have air base for the Empire of the Sun army, and all of these are different, and by the way they are all real type of planes and ships and tanks. You can search them on the internet. They are really used nowadays in all of these armies. Okay, in addition to the units that were used in the Red Alert game. Okay, so all of these are type of tanks and type of defenses. So this is the structure or the organizational unit structure for our Red Alert.internal domain. What about the users, or what is the users of this kind of or the users we will use in this domain? Okay, let's first of all have a look on the users. So here we go and see the users. So here we can see that, let's have a very quick look on what is considered here. So here we can see that we have the first name, we have this is Karim Rauf, first name and last name, and the username and the description, which department he is in. He is the global manager, Karim Rauf, and this is the information technology department. Okay, and this is the password, and this is the division. So if you have a department and there is division from this department, and then this is the company or the place, UN forces or the United Nations force, and the title, his title, he is the manager. Okay, and then the office, and then the manager. Here we will add two columns that I didn't use before. One is the manager and one is the employee number. Why we do this? Because, for example, we have one of the users, I need to know who is his manager in the Active Directory. So for example, let's consider that Charlie Hill, he is the defense bureau, or he is in the Ally Army. We need to know this guy, who is his manager through the Active Directory, because his manager, he is a normal user, or he is one of the personnel in the army. He has an Active Directory account, and his manager also have an Active Directory account. So we need to know who is his manager from the Active Directory. So we need to put in the field of manager who is his manager. Okay, this is to simplify or to know which users in our Active Directory are managed by certain users, or which users in my Active Directory have direct supervision, or who are their manager. So for example, you have 20 or 60 users in the Active Directory. You need to have a simple way to know who is their manager through this field in the Active Directory. And by the way, as I said before, the manager also will have an Active Directory account. So this is very simple way. We will tell him the manager. So here, for example, we can see that if you go to this user is named Kelvin McDonald. Okay, so this user, he is in the IT. I need to know his manager. So if we go there, we can see that his manager is called Gerald Colon. If we go there, if you go to Gerald, here is Gerald, he has his user, and he is his manager, and there is no manager in his field because he's not managed by anyone. But as for McLennan, his manager is Gerald Colon. Okay, and then we have an employee number, which is very important column, because if you need to know if there is an IT audit and the auditor needs to know information about one of your users in your company, he will use the employee number. This is, he doesn't know the names, he need to know the number. So this is, and also this number is used to link different things in your environment. So for example, the employee number, you will link to it the different data concerning the user, his name, his salary, his everything. So the employee number is very important for the HR and very important for you also to identify the user. Okay, so for example, if you don't know his name, his number will be enough to know any data you need from him. So you have the employee number and the manager. These are two important newly added fields I didn't use before. And then this is the place where this user will reside. He will be in the organizational node called Global IT Group, Red Alert Internal. So he will be in the organizational node called Global IT Group. Okay, so these are the users. We can see here that there is a lot of users. There is users called Derek McLaren, Charlie, Chill, Darren Gomez. These are all seems to be or to appear as European names or American names. Okay, so how did I get them? Because actually the Red Alert game doesn't contain all of these names. Okay, these are for the ally army, so these names appears to be American or European. So if you go a little bit further, I will show you something here. If you go to the USSR army, just a minute, I need to go further, so let's go there. All of these are names, okay, but I need to go to the ally, okay, or for the USSR army. Just a minute. So here, if you go there, let's for example see this name. This is for the Japanese army. It's called Aki Abi, Akihono Almoto. Oh, sorry, these are Japanese names. Actually this also is not in the Red Alert name. So how I got the European names and this Japanese names? And if we go further, I will show you that I have also Russian names. Okay, so let's go there. So this is to be more, to make the lab more reasonable. So we can see, for example, this is called Killer Kurgov or Kir or Kolzan Kibutov. You can see these are all Russian names. Okay, so actually if we see the total number of the users, so we have about 4,000 users and names, Russian names, Japanese names and European names. So how I got these names? These names are completely random. Okay, I got it from the internet because the game of Red Alert doesn't contain any name for the personnel in the game. So how I got these names? I go to the internet. So let's show you all how I done this. So here I type random, okay, random American names. If you can go there, we can go there, American and English names. So here we can see, if we go there, not for here, no, not this one. So we'll go to random name generator. Okay, this is the one. So here you can see, you can tell him how much names you need, male or female, and then you can tell him generate random names. Okay, so here we can see Ferdinando Parsons, Grace Parker, Colin. So I took all of these names and put it in my Excel sheet. So this is how I make the American names. So what about the Russian names? The same. You go to and tell him Russian, random Russian names. Okay, and then tell him Russian fantasy name, or this one. So here you tell him I need Russian names. So here we have 5 names, but I think this is 5 names only. So if you go to the second website, here you tell him that I need, for example, these are all names. Okay, names, you can got it. This is also random names, but there is another website I got the names from. So this is, yes, this is 100 names. This is the one that I used. So here, if you go there, we will see that, just a moment, you will see it will create 100 Russian names. So let's wait and see. So let's do it again. So here we can see that is the names. Here you tell him I need to be male or female, okay, and then Russian, and then you tell him generate. This is 100 names, so you can create 100 Russian names. All of these are names, okay, and then at the end the Japanese names. So here is the Japanese random Japanese names. Okay, so here we tell him create random Japanese names. So here we can see this, you can create Mino Kiyomo, or pure beauty as it says here from the name, or we can go for other website Japanese or generate 100 Japanese names. So all of these are names to work with in the lab. So here we can see that this is 100 Japanese names. You can tell him the first name or last name, male or female, okay, normal or whatsoever, and generate the names. So all of these are created by this way. So this is the structure of the users. Okay, and by the way, every user, so for example, let me show you something here. So every user here has his own unit. So for example, this is an infantry. This is one of the infantry in the Empire of the Sun of Japanese, and he is a private, so his title is a private, and he is in the infantry. Okay, and we will see now the groups, how are these users are grouped. But this is the way, or this is the fields for the users in the Active Directory. What about how they are grouped? Let's go and let me show you all what is the groups used here. So here this is the groups. So let me show you all how we group these users. So you can group users according to their department, according to their gender, according to their nationality, or anything that they are sharing common between them. So for example, here we are making a group called Army Allies. So this is group will contain all of the army of the allies. Okay, I mean the personnel or the users, not the tanks or whatsoever, or the planes or something. So we have grouped them as army. So this is the army of the allies, and this is the group for the air forces. So this is, it will contain the users, not the computers. So we have air force as planes, which will consider computers, and the users that will work on these planes. Okay, so this is the personnel in the air force. So we have the army, this is the infantry. So they will have a group for the ally army or the infantry, and or sorry guys, this army will contain all of the army of the allies. For example, the army maybe contain personnel working in the navy, working in the air force, working in the infantry. So all of these armies are in this group. Okay, and then we can subdivide them to users working in the air force, or army working in the air force, or whatsoever, and then we will divide them according to the as I said before, the department. And then we have allies IT. Okay, and we have ally pilots. Okay, what we can see here, and we have ally engineers. So this is by the job, so we can categorize them by the department. Okay, the unit they are working in. Okay, the job they are working with or through it. And we can, for example, have some special soldiers, Jalvan soldiers. So we can group them according to a special type of soldier. So we can have UN allies soldiers, and we can have a special unit of soldiers. We can make a group for them. Okay, so here this is the different groups, and some of these groups are from the Red Alert game. Here we have global IT manager, we have assistant, we have different groups. Okay, all of these, for example, generals. So we have generals in the three armies. This is a group for the generals for all of the three armies, and this is for the major. So we have also majors, so we can categorize them by the title. So we can categorize people by department, job, title, the job, or by the department, the job, the rank. Okay, this is it. And here we can see lieutenant, for example. We can see internet basics, so we can categorize them according to some or for the internet. For example, all of them use the internet, so you make something called internet advanced. This is a group that through it we will control what they can see on the internet. Okay, this is through also working with the firewall or the proxy server. Okay, so internet advanced, this is a group of users will have some free access to the internet. Okay, so they can browse more websites freely. Okay, as for the basic, they are very limited to access certain websites, so this is more restricted for accessing the internet. Okay, and for the internet admin, this is the IT will have full access to the internet. You need to be a member of this group, so we'll use the three groups to control access to the internet. So you can group users according to the job, according to the title, according to the department, according to something they use in common. For example, we all use the internet, so we can group them according to the internet usage. Okay, and here we can see this is different things. So this is the users and the organizational units and the groups. So let's see the computers. Okay, we have said before that the computers will be airplanes, tanks, and ships. So here we can see, for example, that I have named them according to just a moment. Here you can see that I have named them according to a certain naming criteria. So this AAA, it's Ally Air Force, Ally Army Air Force, AAA, Ally Army Air Force. So this is a plane. Okay, this is a plane. Okay, and we can see here that it will be in the air base. So this is a plane, its location in the air base organizational unit. Okay, and we can see basically this is all airplanes. So let's go to something like a ship. Let's go there. Also we can see here that, for example, this is a tank. Okay, it will be in the ARMO facility, or the organizational unit of ARMO facility in the Ally Army. You can see here. Okay, so this is tanks, and let's go to ships, and this is ships. Okay, ship 1, it will be in the seaport. Okay, so this is a kind of naming. Here we can see that they all named according to numbers. Ship 75, ship 74. So it's very simple naming. Okay, you can name it according to a more complex standard, but this is how I name the computers. Okay, and the tanks and the planes, the tanks, and the ships. Okay, so this is the computers. What else we need to know? We need to know that this is a script. Okay, this is a script here. We will discuss it later. This is a script that we will use. Okay, so this is a script we will use to create folders. Okay, for different departments in the different three armies, and share them and let them access it. So this is a folder for the allies. It will be shared, and the army allies group will be able to access this share. So this is a script that we will create with it, or we will share folders with it and give certain Active Directory groups access and certain rights to these shared folders. So this is the one script. This is the SMB permissions or rights, and then this is the NTFS rights. These are also a script to give rights to certain Active Directory groups to certain shared folders. Okay, so this is the SMB and the NTFS. Okay, and this is a script to create home folders. We will create Active Directory home folders. This is simply every user in the Active Directory will have a space on the file server to put his personal data on it, and he will be the only one to access it. So this is a script we will use to create Active Directory home folders. Okay, so this is it. This is most of the scripts that we use, and this is a script we can use to create a number of folders. So here, this is a script. You tell him to create, for example, 100 folder under a main folder, data cube. So here I'm telling him to create in the folder named data cube certain number of folders, and how he will know these folders and their number and their names from a text file called folders.txt. So this is the scripts, or most of the scripts that we'll use in this lab. Okay, what about, we have three different armies. So every army, he need to have his backgrounds and his language. So for example, I need the USSR army, when he accesses his computers, he need to see the Russian flag, or the Russian flag as a background, and he need to see his Windows interface to be in Russian language. As for the Japanese, he need to see the Japanese flag as his background, and to see the Japanese language to be his Windows display interface. So here there is the backgrounds. We can see here we have 3 folders. This is for the allies. We can see here this is the background that will appear for him. This is the ally background will appear for him, and this is the lock screen will appear for his computer. Okay, this is for the allies. Okay, and I need to do something else. I need that this user for the allies, when he accesses his computer, he need to see the English language and the Arabic language installed, or the English language and another language. This is for the allies. Okay, as for the Russian, he needs to see the Russian language and the English language. As for the Japanese, he needs to see the Japanese language and the English language. So every army needs to see certain setting on his computer. So the Japanese needs to see the Japanese language on his Windows as a display language, Windows display language, and as his keyboard, and as for certain backgrounds. So here we can see this is the lock screen for the allies. Let's see the screen or the background for the Japanese. This is the one. Okay, so we need this to be as a background, and we can see here the lock screen for the Japanese. Also, this is one, and we will see the background for the Russian army. Here we can see this is the background for the computers for the Russian army, and for the lock screen, here it is. This is the one. So every army will see a certain certain backgrounds, certain screen servers, certain languages, certain Windows display language according to the army. So the Russian army will see the Windows displayed in Russian language. He will see his backgrounds for his army. He will see the lock screen for his army. He will see his keyboard added. All of this will be done. How this will be done? We're using a script. So we will make a login script. This is the script that we will use. For example, this is one of the scripts here. Okay, let's open it. So this is a script. Just a moment. No, this is not the script. Let me show you all where is the script that we will use. So here there is a script that we will use. Just a moment. Let me go to login script. So here we have 3 scripts. For example, this one for the allies, it will install certain language to the user. So this is the language for the allies. Okay, this is a script, and there is a Japanese script. Okay, so this will be applied to users in the Japanese folder or the Japanese organization unit. It will install the Japanese language and certain things. So every group of army users will have a certain script to be applied to them. This script will apply certain languages, keyboards, and certain backgrounds and certain screensavers. All of this will be done by scripts and group policies. Okay, so this is all what we will have in this lab, and actually this is we will work with it, and then we will at the end work with something called hardening. So after we do all of this, we will work with some security standards, okay, that are issued by the Ministry of Defense, okay, of the United States. So after doing all of our setup, we need to secure our environment. So there is some PDFs here. We can see, for example, let me show you all what I mean by this. So here, for example, this is the one for securing the Active Directory. These are recommended setting. Let me show you all what I mean by this. We will follow this let me show you all. Follow this standard. So here, for example, these are the Ministry of Defense. So these are a technical implementation. Here we can see that it will give us some best practices. For example, here he is telling you one of the things, that the membership of the enterprise admin group must be restricted to account used only to manage the Active Directory. So here he is telling you that the enterprise admin group in the Active Directory, the users in it should only or the accounts in this group should only be used to manage the Active Directory. So you not use enterprise admin groups to access workstations. It's only will be used for managing your Active Directory. This is one of the things. We'll discuss it in details, but we will use these guidelines to secure our environment. This is for the Active Directory. You can see here that there is a lot. Here there is for the Adobe Reader, the Edge, the Office. So all of this we will discuss it one by one, and we will see how this is done, and we will show you all how we can create a privilege access workstation to secure access to our Windows Core environment. Hope these videos are informative to you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.